Hello beautiful, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video where I am gonna go through my entire, and there is 3 large piles in front of me, my entire collection of like Halloween spooky themed eyeshadow palettes. And let me tell you, I had more than I thought. I went through my collection. I hope I didn't miss any. I might have decluttered some. I hope I didn't miss any. Most of these palettes are available, but I also did dug out my discontinued Halloween palettes as well because I have some revelations to share with you. So let's go into all of it. I wanted to start out the video by talking about the palette that I released with Oden this year. I moved here from Sweden almost 2 years ago, and this has been my first brush with Halloween, and I've enjoyed it way more than I thought because I realized with Halloween, it's not only about the gory and the spooky and the scary. It can be about spooky cute and spooky childish. And when I did my palettes, this first one is the Trick or Treat palette, I did them more inspired by the things that I was seeing as someone who was seeing Halloween for the first time, almost through a kid's eyes. I was seeing the candies, the colorful aisles at like every store in the US, all the cute decorations that people were putting up inside their house or outside their houses. And it wasn't all scary because I don't mind scary or gory or anything like that, but it's not 100% my aesthetics. I feel like I'm more into like spooky but make it Disney. Like I loved the Halloween party at Disney. Just a little bit more keeping your inner child alive. So that's why I created these palettes here. A different take on Halloween. More like almost like a discovering it for the first time as a kid take on it. This is the Little Ghost palette. Again, just more colorful shades, stuff that I like to wear. And also, I'm gonna be honest with you, I made these colors so that they would mix and match with neutrals, but also with some of these more darker, grungier, spookier things as well. I even talked about that with the palette that I'm wearing today. I'm gonna mention that as the next one, that you could mix that palette with any of these two palettes so easily because they would complement each other. So these palettes are still available. We do have a little stock left. I don't think we'll be restocking after these have sold out, just so you know. And I will link everything down below. And if I have any codes with any of these brands, I will pop them up. I do know that I have a code with Oden, but it doesn't work on these collab palettes. But all the info, it's gonna be down in the description box in case you were interested in any of these palettes. But one of the things that I noticed, like I said, when I went through all of these palettes, is that I have changed my mind on some of the past Halloween palettes, and I want to talk about that when we get there. So the palette that I have on my eyes today is the Friday the 13th palette, which is the collaboration between Glamlight and the horror movie The Friday the 13th. I actually did go to my very first Halloween party where I got to dress up at the Glamlight in LA together with Heather Austin. It was so much fun. I dressed up as Hella, which is what the palettes that I did with Oden's are inspired by, and I had so much fun, and I got to see this collection for the first time up close. And I think out of the horror palettes that they have done, this is my favorite color story, the Friday the 13th. When I'm filming this video, they have not announced the inside or the full collection that they're doing next, which is Terror on Elm Street. I wanted to include that one in this video too, but I just did not have time to wait for that collection. So just imagine that one is included here as well, because they also have done 2 other horror palettes, and I think both of these are still available. So we have the Ghostface and the Chucky. The Ghostface is the one that came out this year, and this one is the fully grayscale cool tone palette that has a couple of duochromes in here. I think the quality of this one is really beautiful, but this isn't my favorite color story. I don't love grays on me, and that also could be one of the reasons why Halloween palettes aren't always perfect for me, because I don't like gray shadows. It's not that I don't think I look good in them. Listen, I'm a 10 in everything. Okay, I need to calm down. But it's not that I don't think I look good in them. It's that I don't think they're fun to work with. It's very hard for me to blend out the gray without making it look patchy to my skin tone that is more of a neutral golden warm undertone. So I think that grays are just not as fun to work with. That is the honest truth. And that's also the reason why the Chucky palette was never a full favorite for me, even though I will say I prefer this color story because this one has dark like burgundies and reds, and the metallic black is just so pretty. So I definitely think that this is a good palette. I think this one is still available. if I'm not 100% mistaken. So yeah, they have done 3 horror collabs, and there is another one coming real soon. Let me know which one is your favorite. If I'm gonna be totally honest, my favorite Halloween palettes by Glamlight is the Scooby-Doo ones. I think these are discontinued though. These were the smaller palettes that they came out with. This is the Rutro Raggy. Did I say that correctly? I might have actually. This is a beautiful color story, and this is a mix of grungy and bright, and I really like that. I love a color story that you can take in different directions. I love that there are 5 shimmers and 5 mattes. I think this color story is beautiful, and I wish these palettes were still available. But also, like, this speaks to me because I like color stories that are a little bit more bright and colorful. It's just who I am. I like that kind of a thing. This is Creeps and Crawls. I like this one too, but I like the other one more because this one has more contrast, and I think that this one has it's just a more fun color story in my opinion. I just like the mix between lighter and darker, but I mean, still, I really like these shades, and again, I wish that these palettes were still available, but I don't think they are. One brand that has done 2 Halloween palettes is Bella Beauté Bar, and this is a brand that I got into last year for the first time. So this is the Strange and Unusual palette by Bella Beauté Bar, and this one has okay, I'm gonna rephrase this. I think that this palette has amazing shimmers and okay mattes, but after this palette, Bella Beauté Bar actually went and they changed their formula up, and they have improved their formula a lot, and since then they have released some really incredibly formulated palettes as of this year. Again, I always am impressed when I see a brand go from good to great, to just not settle for good and to just strive to be better and better, and that's what I think Bella Beauté Bar did. This palette is beautiful. I love the color story. Again, it's bright, it's moody colors, it's light. There are 2 really light mattes, love that, and there are like duochromes and shimmers. Bella Beauté Bar has a tendency of putting a lot of special shades, multichromes and stuff like that in their palettes, so they tend to be a little bit more pricey than the palettes that I've shown you so far. But this one is the one that they released this year. This is the basic witch palette, and this one is a little bit more on the brighter side. I will say that this one is a more colorful color story. Again, there's a couple of special shades. I think this is like $60 something. Again, you can get some money off with a code, but it also has a light matte, and it has dark, like moody colors and some bright colors, and I like the mix of this a lot. Now, one thing that I would wish them to elevate even more in the future is the packaging. That needs to be your next step, I think. I have one palette here from Cosmic Brushes. Cosmic Brushes has one of my favorite formulas, especially when it comes to the mattes, and this is the Gothic palette. This one just was released this year. I don't know if it's still available or not, but this is a beautiful 12-pan palette, and this is the first time that the brand has done a 12-pan, and this one has more shimmers than they usually do in their palettes as well. So if you've looked at some of their palettes and thought that you want more shimmers or you want a smaller palette, this one might be for you. I thought the quality was beautiful, and I do have some videos with some of these palettes. If I have any videos that are like somewhat relevant, I will link those as well down below in case you are interested. I don't know if this is necessarily like maybe Halloween inspired, but listen, you're coming up with a black palette called Gothic around Halloween, I'm gonna include you. Batty Bean and Shroud has done 2 collab palettes together for the Halloween season, and first they did the It's Freaking Bats palette, and this is a little 9-pan palette. Super cute. I've actually not done anything with this on my channel. I got this very, very late into my collection. I think a year after it had been released. This one sold out. There was a super long restock period, and the pre-sale, it took months to be shipped out. So I actually never ended up getting this one at the first launch, but I think it might be still available. And they did also release a second collab, and this is the Halloween palette. And this is a more warmer color story. I personally prefer the color story of the first one over this one because I feel like some of these shades can be a little hard to mix and match with each other, but there is a metallic orange in here, and I am always down for metallic orange. Orange eyeshadow makes me very happy. Colourpop has done quite a few Halloween collections. Let's start with the ones that I don't think any of them are still available. They might be. I will leave some links down below if they are available. But these are the Hocus Pocus palettes that they did. They did number 1, and then they did, no, number 1, number 2, and then the last thing was this, the bigger one. This is the Gather Around Sisters, and this is the first one that they released, and this one basically broke the internet. I got sent present this one year later when they released number 2, which was the Witching Hour, which was a smaller one. A lot of people really loved this one. I think that this one leans a little bit too neutral to be like a favorite for me, but that's just my personal preference when it comes to makeup. So I prefer the Witching Hour more because it's a little bit more colorful, if I'm gonna be honest. And I actually really did like this one. I do think that these 3 shades are a little too similar. One of them could have been a pastel instead, or even a matte, like bone colored, like matte. It would have made more sense in the palette. But I thought this palette was really cute, but my favorite is this newest one. And this one came out last year, and I don't think that any of these palettes are available anymore. So this is the Hocus Pocus 2. So this one is after the Hocus Pocus 2 movie. The inside is a little hard to show you the color story, but this one also has purples and greens and like oranges, but it's made a little better. I think that this one has a better color story. I like these colors a lot. I really enjoyed playing with this one. And out of the 3 palettes, this one was my favorite when it came to the Hocus Pocus palettes. And I think that this has been a really big hit for Colourpop. And I also think the immense hit that they've had with these palettes is probably one of the reasons why they keep working with Disney again and again and again and again. And they did now this year do the Welcome Foolish Mortals. This was announced, and I told you I have not been on the ride at Disney World. I have not seen the old movie and I have not seen the new movie, but you know what? I have been on the ride. I have seen both the movies and I feel pretty good about myself. I now am, I was gonna say an expert, I'm not, but at least I know something. I'm like in the know, and I think that they did a pretty good job with this color story, honestly. I think the background of this palette is the wrong background color. It makes this color story look more dull than it actually is, and I think they did a good job with this. I will say, if I never get to see one of their glitter shadows again in my life, I will die one happy woman. I really do not need to ever experience them in a Colourpop palette ever again. Please and thank you. 2 palettes, I think these are still available, and these are by Gourmande Girls. She has done 2 collabs with Duels by the Bunny. So the one from last year is called Spooked, and it looks like this right here, and it has a warmer color story. This one was leaning a little bit more on the neutral side. There's a white and a black. Again, I love when palettes have that. I mean, it's not that hard for me to bring that out of my collection, but I used to be that person like, I don't want that in the palette, and now I'm the opposite. I'm like, I kind of like when they're in there. They don't need to be there, but I appreciate when they are there. There is a couple of duochromes in here, and overall I thought the quality was really nice of this one, but I thought the color story was a little bit too neutral for my liking, but I still really did enjoy it. But I think the palette that they did this year, which is called Haunted, is even better. This one has some ghosties on the front, and the color story is just a little bit more up my alley. It's bright and colorful, and I really like the color story of this one. They did release one palette before as well that was called Nightshade, I think, and it's very similar to this one, which was a little bit surprising to me because I'm like, why are we releasing 2 so similar palettes back to back? But I can't deny that the color story of this one is really pretty, and I like the quality of it as well. I don't remember if these are the same price or if this one is more expensive, because I feel like this one might have more special shades in it. So the Haunted palette is $54.99, and the Spooked palette is actually also $54.99. I would recommend the new one. I would recommend the Haunted palette over the older one. That's just my personal opinion and my personal preference, I guess. I have 2 palettes by Unearthly Cosmetics as well that I want to show you. This one is just so strange. I think that this one has been discontinued since. This is a very bright color story. I mean, I love a good bright color story, and there is 2 multichromes in this one as well. I really enjoyed this palette, but I will say I haven't used it since. And this color story is, for me, maybe a little mid-tone. Like, I would like something a little lighter and a little darker. I much prefer the palette that she released this year, which is the Devour collection. This is so pretty. So pretty. There is light shades, there are mid-tone shades, there are dark shades, there is some special shades, or some regular, like, really nice metallics. I appreciate this color story a lot, and when this first was released, it was only released as like a full collection. You could buy the collection box, but since then she has actually released a palette on its own. And the collection was also a blush duo and some liquid lipsticks, lip glosses, and a lip oil that was like super beautiful. This collection, really like it. Nomad Cosmetics has 2 Halloween palettes that they have released, and there's also like these, like, you know, I never remember what these are called. I keep forgetting. Even if you remind me in the comments, I'm gonna forget. This is the Haunted Europe. This one is discontinued. I know for a lot of people, this is their favorite palette from Nomad. I personally don't agree. It's just my humble opinion. I don't think that this is one of their best palettes. I am not the kind of person that's like, oh my god, I wish they would bring it back. I'm fine. I'm good. This one, it's not bad, but it's not my favorite from the brand. But this year, they did release another one that is Ghost Town USA. That is very cool. And this one is a cool tone palette. I think a lot of people wanted a cool tone palette from Nomad. So this one has cool tones, both greens and blues. And then a full like 6-pan neutrals over here and a pop of purple, and then some olivey like warmer greens as well. I like the quality of this palette a lot. I think these have really beautiful colors. I really enjoyed playing with this one. But and again, I said this in the beginning, gray leaning colors aren't my absolute favorite ones. So for that reason, this will just never be my favorite palette. Not because of the quality. I think the quality of this one is beautiful, but because of the color story. But if you like this color story, you are gonna enjoy this palette. Now let's talk about some palettes that are discontinued. The amount of times that we talk about Melt Cosmetics and we say, oh, I wish they would just do what they did with Beetlejuice again. Because they did a collection with Beetlejuice for Halloween 3-4 years ago. And when I went through these and swatched them again, I was like, why? These aren't that special. The color story isn't even that good. There is a white and a black and a red, and I love that, but like, why were we so up in arms over this one? We were like, oh my god, this is so cool, this is so amazing. And now I'm like, were we just really smitten with Melt? Or maybe we were just thirsty for any kind of colorful, fun color story with a cool theme. And there's like no Halloween makeup available at that point. So we were just excited about this. Because this one is the Recently Deceased that for some absurdly weird reason has less shadows. Were there really no shadows that you could put into this one? Because the palettes are the same size. And this isn't a good color story. I think I was making excuses for Melt before because they were the only brand doing fun things. And now there are so many brands, like you can see there are so many brands that have come up and really not only do fun things, but also do great quality. And they have surpassed Melt since. So this one, it's good quality, but there are 4 pretty similar purples, and then there are 3 pretty similar green, and just a very misplaced dark green metallic that you can't do anything with. And I'm like, are we okay? Like, I don't know. This isn't the best Halloween collection that's ever been released. Yeah, it's a cool theme and the packaging are cool and like all of that. But I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. The last palettes that I have are the 2 palettes by Lunar Beauty. So this is the Moonspell Volume 2 and the Moonspell Volume 1. I'm pretty sure I bought these myself. I have since then been added to the PR list, but I'm pretty sure I bought these myself. This is the number 1. And this palette, I still think that this has a really cool color story, and I like that there is a green teal, colorful and fun, a pinky purple, colorful and fun. There's also like these 2 really beautiful duochromes, and then there's a neutral row. I like when there is some neutrals in a palette that you can choose to do something toned down if you want to. But this quality was really beautiful. I wonder, because again, we were tripping over ourselves being in love with this palette when it released. The packaging is still one of the best packagings that I've seen. Honestly, it's so good. But would this color story be as hyped today? Actually, I'm gonna show you something. Okay, you're gonna have to let me know if you agree. Hold on. This is the Basic Witch palette by Bella Beauté Bar. I'm not saying they're the same, but they've definitely been drinking from the same well. They have similarities, for sure, in the color story. So I'm just saying that sometimes So I'm just saying that sometimes we feel like something slipped out of our hands, but if we just look closely enough, there's always something similar being released now that we can find. And then we have the volume 2. I think the packaging is beautiful. This one had smaller shadows and more shadows. Some people didn't like the quality of this palette. I really did enjoy it. I also love, like, well, you saw that with the palettes that I did. I love peach, pink, red, purple together. I love that there are some darker shades. There's a black. There's this like almost sparkly white topper. I had a lot of fun with this one, but I will say this formula is a little different from the formula in this one, the Moonspell #1, but also red pigments are a little bit more different to the touch, and I didn't think that this one had any red eyeshadows, and this one had a lot of red pigments in there. So for that reason, I felt like they were different, but I didn't have any problems working with this one. I did beautiful looks and I really liked it, but just want to let you know that there were some differences. This one might still be available, if I'm gonna be honest. I'm not 100% sure. This might be available. This one is not anymore. But yeah, those were my Halloween palettes. Did I miss one? Do you have one that is your favorite that I do not have? I would love to hear about your favorites. Of course, I love something that's more bright and colorful and fun, because I feel like that's also something that I can bring into other seasons. Because if there's one thing I like with eyeshadow palettes, it's an eyeshadow palette that gives me diversity. I can wear it for a party or a work interview. I can wear it for a picnic in the summertime and the wintertime. Like, it fits all my different moods and my different seasons. That's what I like with a palette. So I like when a palette has different sides to it. I mean, that's what I try to have done with all the palettes that I've ever created. So I would love to hear your thoughts down below. I hope you're having an amazing, amazing day, and I will see you again soon in a new video. Bye!